Welcome back to the United States Air and Trade Show in Dayton, the birthplace of aviation. I'm Jim Baldridge, along with Ed Meckenbauer, and you are looking at Team America. Ed, tell us a little about these airplanes.
These aircraft are interesting. Again, they're not really traditional military airplanes, although they have been used as light attack airplanes, as military trainers. And these are all privately owned. This is not a sponsored group. Chuck Lischer, who's the leader of the team, formed it 12 years ago. And they do the basic military maneuvers exactly as we'll see out of the Blue Angels here a little bit later on. There's a clover
beautiful loop. Yeah, clover leaf in the air.
Yep.
And just like the real Blue Angels, two of them we've lost track of two, and they're going to come in and surprise us here.
Absolutely.
Two in the air. Here we are.
Right towards the crowd here, line abreast. Splitting are going to go up and do one of those heart maneuvers, I bet, saying how much they love being in Dayton, Ohio. Chuck Lischer's the leader. Barney Register flies number 2. John Barry and Neil Bird make up 3 and 4. Team America, 1996.
This Barney Register is kind of an interesting guy. He lives in, near Sacramento, California on a houseboat.
Yes.
Sounds like a tough life, living on a houseboat during the week and flying a fun airplane on the weekends for money.
Yep, up into the sky. Here comes that heart maneuver, up with 2 aircraft going apart from each other. Across the top here, probably down around 80 or 90 miles an hour. And back down
look at the picture.
Here.
Look at this picture we're going to show.
Yeah.
You know, this looks a lot like what the Navy Blue Angels looked like in the late 1940s and 1950s, in fact, the propeller-driven aircraft that looked very much like this.
Yeah, these are 260 horsepower aircraft that don't have near the speed that some of the other World War II airplanes had even.
That's right.
But it's fun to watch. I mean, again, it's like watching the Blue Angels in 1/3 motion.
Indeed. And we will see the Blues at full speed, Ed, coming up.
But right now, Jim, let's recognize the Blues' golden 50th anniversary with a look back in time.
They've roared out of the clouds for half a century now. The Blue Angels, thrilling crowds and swelling pride in the U.S. Navy. 50 years of the fastest fighter planes. 50 years of the best aviators. For 50 years, Al Tadeo and some of the other early Blue Angels pilots have watched their tradition grow.
We started with 4 pilots and 15 enlisted men. And never in our wildest imagination did we feel that it would ever get up to what it is today, the stature and the admiration that people have for the team.
The first Blue Angels in the summer of 1946 were Navy flight instructors at Jacksonville, Florida, with some post-war time on their hands.
And Mr. Butch Vorse was a leader, and we couldn't have had a better example of a leader than we did Butch Vorse.
One thing the team had then, as now, the hottest aircraft. The Blues started in June 1946 in the Grumman F7F Hellcat, a big and powerful late World War II fighter. Max speed, 380 miles per hour.
And we were able to get out in the force of Jacksonville, Florida area and do a lot of so-called legal flat hatting to perform these maneuvers. Then we put them together, and we came close a couple times.
Still in the summer of 46, the Blues moved to the lighter, faster F8F Bearcat and upped their top speed to 425 miles per hour. By the end of the 1940s, they were in their first jets. The F9 F2 Panther. Max speed jumps to 625 miles per hour. In 1950, the Blue Angels flew their Panthers to war. They fought from the USS Princeton in the Korean conflict. The team moved to a faster version of the Panther, the F9 F5, in 1951. Even then, many of the maneuvers that thrill Blue Angels audiences today were part of the show. By 1955, the Blues had settled into the swept-wing F9 F8 Cougar and their permanent home, Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida. Zeke Cormier was the Blue Angels' leader in the mid-50s.
Maneuvers are pretty much the same. I hear them talk about the starting times and starting speeds, and they're pretty much the same. And of course, it's evolved from that. And the airplanes are gorgeous and got all that power.
Yeah. In 1957, the Blue Angels moved to the F-11 F1 Tiger, the last of Grumman's classic CATS series of aircraft. The Tiger was the first Blue Angels plane capable of supersonic flight. The F-4 Phantom came next in 1969. The F-4 is a huge and powerful fighter developed by the Navy that also became the frontline fighter of the Air Force. 5 years later, as the energy crisis hit, the Blue Angels moved to the nimble and fuel-efficient A-4 Skyhawk. And on their 40th anniversary in 1986, the Blue Angels began flying their current plane, the McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet, a carrier-launched fighter and attack plane. In their 50 years and 8 airplanes, the Blue Angels have flown before more than 276 million spectators.
I get a thrill every time I watch them fly, and I reminisce a lot and say they're lucky young men up there doing a good job for the Navy, and I hope getting a lot of good recruits in naval aviation.
50 years of great flying as superb ambassadors in blue and gold for our United States Navy. Makes you feel good and proud. We'll be back with more United States Air and Trade Show action in Dayton, Ohio. Stay with us. Welcome back to Dayton, Ohio, the birthplace of aviation, where some of the best pilots in the world have gathered for the U.S. Air and Trade Show.
One of the very best in the world in the air right now above the United States Air and Trade Show in Dayton. Ed Beckenbauer.
Jim, if you have $195,000 or so, you can buy your own extra 300S.
Or you can watch Patti Wagstaff, who can fly it a lot better than anybody else in the world.
That's what you can't buy. Exactly.
That's
Patti
right.
has been the national champion, not male, not female, combined a whole schmagiggy. 1991, 1992, 1993. Three-time national aerobatic champion.
And she's so good, she's retiring from the competition. She's going to do air shows full-time now. There's nobody can fly like this. Well, with the possible exception of somebody else who's here.
And he'll be here.
And he'll be here. Sean Tucker is the type of skill and athleticism that's involved in this, and a feel for a pilot's touch is just incredible. Just incredible.
This is a German airplane designed by a fellow by the name of Walter Extra. It is built specifically for aerobatic competition. And if you see what Patti has in her airplane, maybe we'll get a chance to see a little sight gauge on the wing to give her those exact 90-degree and 45-degree lines.
Well, that's a tight, look at that turn.
She turns how square she can turn this airplane. A lot of power, and it is built out of very space-age type material, a lot of carbon fiber in it, a lot of graphite, things like that. So it has the strength to pull plus or minus 12 times her body weight, plus or minus 12 Gs.
She can do not necessarily loops, but boxes in the air.
That's right. There's a good example.
There's up in the air. There's your hammerhead over on the side.
Hammerhead, and let's see airplane come down the right side there. Yep, you had a good shot there. The little sights on the ends there, Jim, that she uses to get that exact 45 degrees. And if she turns, push a stick left, Patti, next time, you can see the bottom of the airplane has even got a big plexiglass window. There you are.
Oh, thank you, Patti.
Thank you, Patti. Big plexiglass window, so when she's doing her spinning maneuvers, she can look out the bottom of the airplane and line herself up perfectly with the line that she wants to stop on.
Now, to give you an idea how well recognized her expertise is in this airplane's quality is the predecessor of this airplane that Patti had is in the Smithsonian.
And recognition of the airplane and, of course, the three-time national champion.
That's right.
That's
right. That was the 260, the extra 260. It's in Washington. You want to see that one? You could have seen it a couple years ago at the Dayton AirShow, but you have to go to the Smithsonian in Washington to see it now.
And now she's doing those outside maneuvers, just pushing forward on the stick, you know, pushing all the blood in her hair up to the canopy.
Get negative G's to the top of that end?
Yep. Yes, Jim. About 2 or 3 negative G's.
Wants to pull you up out of the airplane.
Yep. And why does she do it? Because it's fun. And if you like speed and freedom and challenge and being your own boss, be an airshow acrobat. And how about some extra airshow atmosphere, Ed? Let's listen to the call from show announcer, Australia native, Gordon Bowman Jones.
Patti Wagstaff now upside down the runway, showing you the top surface of the airplane as she comes by. You'll notice that Patti rolls the airplane around to the left, and as she's rolling that airplane around to the left, putting together 2 different maneuvers at the same time, continuously rolling the airplane and flying a 360-degree circle as she does it. She is now completing the rolling 360-degree turn. And that requires constant inputs to the controls of the aircraft to complete a 360-degree turn while simultaneously continuing to roll the airplane around on its axis.
Champion Patti Wagstaff, with the voice heard only at the world's best air shows, the inimitable Gordon Bowman Jones.
Well, Jim had said women are from Venus and modern high-tech monoplanes. Men are from Mars and classic wires in the wings biplane. Which prevails is still up in the air.
Sean Tucker definitely knows how to grab your attention. And when Tucker's aerobatic biplane shares the skies with the speedy monoplane of Patti Wagstaff, it can lead to an airborne battle of the sexes that starts at treetop level and goes straight up.
When she's not flying competition, then she challenges me to a duel. Yeah, but he's too chicken. He doesn't usually take me.
I do too. Man against woman, beauty against the beast.
Biplane against monoplane, black against white.
And I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
And she's a good girl.
No matter what I do, I can just go around, fly around in circles, and I'd probably
She's
win.
the princess.
I'm sorry.
The competition, like the stunts, are all part of the performance. Performance pros like Sean Tucker take very seriously.
It's a real honor for me to be flying in front of these people, but it's not for me to hurt myself. The whole thing is a mental attitude. I can walk that line. I can walk right on the edge of that line of danger, but I got to stay on the safe side. And every pilot has their own envelope they fly with it. And as long as we do that, we're going to be okay.
I just love it. I just love having control of the machine, flying it, keeping it under control, even though it looks like I'm out of control. I'm very under control. I just love the feeling of flying, tumbling around the sky. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
But no doubt about it, that fabulous team is having a whole lot of fun in the sky in their flying machines.
Hey, who needs a flying machine? Up in the sky right now, the U.S. Army Golden Knights. These guys and gals don't use flying machines. They use parachutes, and only then occasionally, it seems.
Jim, these canopies have a 20-foot span, so they're actually, from wingtip to wingtip, if you will, wider than either Sean Tucker's or Patti Wagstaff's aircraft.
These are amazing-looking parachutes, far different from what we're used to seeing in the old days. Now, here's a fellow who's lost his chute. What's happening here, Ed?
Well, here, this is the old traditional parachute, around either 24 or 28-foot diameter parachute that we normally see when the Army or the Air Force are jumping out of airplanes. So he's coming down. Oh, Jim.
Lost his chute again. This obviously, folks, is a demonstration of backup parachutes and what can happen and what safety measures the Golden Knights take in the very, very rare instance where they lose a chute.
Yeah, a little canopy malfunction there, so he just cuts it away. And normally, an airborne Ranger-type person really does have two parachutes, and
then you get your ram chute out again.
So we've gone from the old low-tech round chute to the very, very maneuverable square rigger parachute.
Now, this is really a flying wing, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, Jim, as he comes around here, you look right in the front, almost looks like the front end of a harmonica, and air goes into 7 chambers in the front there, actually fills and makes the thing semi-rigid, really.
Now, how fast can he go? How well can he maneuver in this?
The normal inherent forward speed in this thing, inflated like that, if he's not trying to help it come down there like he is now, is about 22 miles an hour, but he can get it pointed down about 60 miles an hour going straight down.
As opposed to without a chute?
Well, without a chute, the body free falls at about 125 miles an hour, but if he streamlines, puts his ears back and his arms back, he can get up to 225 miles an hour.
Here's a beautiful picture. Making that landing here at the United States Air and Trade Show, Dayton, Ohio. Not too far from their home base at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
We saw Sean Tucker's biplane. How about a United States Army biplane here, Jim? The guy on the bottom is controlling the flight, and another show center toe-up landing.
The U.S. Army Golden Knights.
And if you like jets and rockets, stay tuned for more highlights from the 1996 U.S. Air and Trade Show. Stay with us.
From the birthplace of aviation, welcome back to the United States Air and Trade Show, Dayton, Ohio, where on the runway right now, the Viper demonstration, an F-16C from Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina.
So there's 29,000 pounds of Evendale's finest F-110 engine.
Got the new engine, huh?
Got the new one. He's got the biggest. It's a brand new airplane, Jim. It even smells good. It's only got 100 hours on Captain Lawson's airplane there.
Well, up to the air, this is what you call your basic high-altitude launch. In fact, it's beyond that. He's going for a loop in this sky here.
He's going to pull right up over the back there, about 4,000 feet, and do half a Cuban 8. He'll roll right side up when his nose is 45 degrees low.
He's been just about over the runway all this time. He hasn't left probably the environment of the runway at this point.
Oh, no, he won't get outside the 10,000 foot of runway we have here going either way. You know, and this is one of the early airplanes that's kind of, dated a little bit now in terms of what we see in the F-18, the later version of that, the F-15E and all. But this airplane was one of the first that had what was called HOTAS, hands on the stick and the throttle. With all the combinations and permutations of the weapons on this airplane, you can perform 210 different functions with just the combination of the buttons on the stick and the throttle. So the pilot, when he's all loaded up, he can change weapons that he has selected. He can change delivery modes without ever having to take his hands off and reach for the switch. Whoa!
Afterburner kicks in there, so he's not having to reach behind him in the seat and turn some toggle switches or anything.
Or reach forward to the dash panel. When he's got 8 or 9 times his body weight on his arm, he doesn't need to do that. But now, by the same token, one of the real key things in today's modern fighter pilot
He needs to be a good physical specimen. These guys spend a lot of time lifting weight and jogging and everything else. And so now we're going to see coming down the runway just a little bit above landing speed, about 120 knots here. Captain Lawson's got the airplane coming in. Look how he's pitched up there. So you had a good profile view of the F-16, the Fighting Falcon, the Viper, the electric jet, all those other things.
What a beautiful airplane. And Wright-Patterson Air Force Base had a big hand in designing it, continues to have a big hand in the further development of this wonderful
fighter. In fact, the system program director, the overall control of this airplane, still resides at Wright-Patterson.
So he saw the landing gear tuck in. You could hear, no, you could actually sense inside your body the afterburner kick in, and he's climbing straight above the end of the runway. And again, Ed, perhaps you don't find this as amazing as I do, but I'm amazed that this whole show has taken place within over a 10,000-foot runway. He's not gone beyond that, or at least not much beyond that, for this entire performance.
Jim, there are more than 2,000 Fighting Falcons around the world, flying in 16 different countries.
One of the world's highest of high-tech fighter aircraft, the F-16.
Coming down the ramp of a C-17, the Globemaster III. And Jim, not all the high-tech goodies go into the fighter airplanes with digital flight controls and glass cockpit. This is a very sophisticated piece of machinery.
This is certainly the latest, but some would say the very greatest cargo plane ever is the classic C-130 Hercules.
And here's the C-130 with a name, Fat Albert. This flown by the United States Marine Corps. This is a support aircraft for the Blue Angels.
Now, this aircraft's been flying for 40 years, flown all over the world by all kinds of countries. It can get up in the air fast, and with a little help from something called JATO, real fast. Watch.
Pounds of additional jet-assisted thrust get Albert up and out in a hurry. A little slower, perhaps, but no less thrilling. A barnstorming super steerman.
Dave Dacey at the controls, and Johnny Kazian, well, out there on the wing somewhere, Ed. On this, this performance is really, really amazing.
This is amazing because the guy that's out the wing is not your average couch potato.
No,
obviously.
No, and he's been doing this for a long time. He didn't start this last week either.
No, he's been doing it for 42 years. He's 63 years old. And coming down the runway here, this airplane is only slightly modified. He's got a 450 horsepower engine instead of the original 220 that came out in the late 30s and early 40s. And so he's
upside down, hanging on by your toes.
This is in direct contrast to the Viper we just saw, a relatively slow airplane. 180 miles an hour is starting to stretch the old wires out there.
Now, at what points is he bound to that airplane with rope or attachments of some kind? Is he attached right now?
There is a harness on the top wing of this airplane, so when he's standing up there, he can wrap it around his waist like a big lap belt, so then he'll kick his arms free and his legs free, and he'd be up there just, you know, flying as a bird.
Okay, he's going east to west now down the runway here, and he does actually, though, he does move around from time to time. When you move on an aircraft like this, you've got to put some thought into when and how you do it, right, Ed?
You don't let go with your left hand before your right hand is on something very firm.
Unless your toes are really sticky. Huh?
Very sticky, that's right. And this airplane, he's collecting bugs out there about 180 miles an hour.
Big smile
at the bottom of some of these maneuvers.
Yeah, yep, that's true. Beautiful picture there of Dave Dacey and that beautiful Stearman A-75.
One of the things we can do here on TV is we can put you right on the wing position. He's moving down over, looks like he's going to climb down over the front wing of the
we're
airplane.
watching this on our television sets too, because we can't, the television camera brings it to you folks better than we can see it here in person.
Ride 'em cowboy.
Hey,
he's just sitting up on the top wing there waving to the crowd. Now there's not a whole lot to strap onto there. He's got his toes tucked into a couple of struts. And other than that, there's no attachment point for him there. But here are some answers. Yes, it's windy.
I'm awestruck just watching that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, it's windy. No, I won't fall off. Yes, I do trust Dave. Yes, my family knows. No, I'm not nuts. And no, I don't get bugs in my teeth. Those are the most common answers to the most commonly asked questions of wing walkers.
It certainly looks scary, Ed. You know, it's interesting. A lot of these air show performers have had to overcome early fears of flying.
And in fact, in 1973, Sean D. Tucker was afraid to do anything in an airplane other than fly straight and level.
When I first started flying, I was just enchanted with the sky, but I was scared to death. I knew if I got in an airplane, and stalled it, I was going to die. I just felt that I would lose control. And from that moment on, when I conquered that fear and I could roll an airplane upside down, I fell in love with the sky even more. And this has been my quest for the last 20 years, and I'm still learning how to fly this airplane. Richard Bach wrote a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and that freedom and that it represented and that spirit is what I wanted to capture in the sky, and it is certainly there. She's a mean, lean sky dancing machine. We call her the 1-800-COLLECT Challenger, and she is probably one of the most powerful, agile, small biplanes in the world. I have probably 6,000 aerobatic flights in this airplane, and the wings become my arms. Welcome to my office. This is not your normal everyday place where a guy does business, but this is where I spend a lot of time. This is my dancing machine. Right here is my sequence. And what we do here is very disciplined, and it's also something that we take very seriously because we're talking about safety. Everything we do inside this cockpit, my job is to enchant that audience, is to thrill them, is to make them think that I'm the wildest, craziest guy that ever lived. But I guarantee you, my job is not to scare them or hurt myself. That audience does not want to see me hurt. And if I hurt myself, I take away a part of their dream.
More of John D. Tucker living that dream a little bit later.
Keep that seatbelt fastened. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the United States Air and Trade Show. One of the real stars here in Dayton this year is this rare classic late World War II fighter. This is the F7F Tigercat made by Grumman. Not only is it appearing here, it's performing here in a rare aerial ballet with its grandson.
And Jim, the dancing partner to that Tigercat is this F-14V Tomcat. Generations apart in many respects, but let's see what they look like in the air together.
And there's the F7F coming down the flight line, smoke on. It's kind of like I do a little bit and you do a little bit. They're very different airplanes, but they're both really entertaining.
Yeah, Jim, this airplane, you know, people say, gee, I never saw this on TV very often. This airplane really was rather late in the war. As I said, you know, first flight in 1943, and there were more canceled than ever built. There were only about 300 of all models of the F7F built.
And this is the reconnaissance model, did you say?
The 3P. Mostly it was a single-seat fighter and fighter bomber, but there were a few made for the Marine Corps that had the second seat for a reconnaissance guy on.
Oh, here comes our 14 again, our Tomcat in the air. We just saw the Tigercat. Here's the Tomcat. Look at this. And the straight up in the air. Corkscrew climb, my favorite.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you, this is quite a treat, ladies and gentlemen. You come out here and you see 60,000-pound Tomcat dancing around on the wing of a 20,000-pound Tigercat.
That's kind of what it is, a dance in the sky.
Yep, sure is. Okay, we got
Back
two
together.
of them. Yeah, and again, as I said earlier, you know, I talked to John Ellis yesterday, and he said, I really wouldn't do this with anybody other than Captain Snodgrass. They've been doing it on and off for about 11 years when they first met when John was a F-14 pilot in the Navy, I guess.
There's a lot of similarities between our aircraft, the Tigercat being the piston twin built by Grumman, leading the family of the Wildcat, Hellcat, Bearcat, and the Tomcat leading the jet family of the Panther, Cougar, and Tiger, make this a particular emotional thing, spanning over 50 years of U.S. naval aviation history.
Okay, a little tuck under brake here to landing gear. It's going the long way around to a left turn. It's just too easy to put the stick to the left and turn left. You turn it to the right, go 270 degrees, and tuck under brake. They're going to come
Looks like, you know, the F-14 with the wings swept back looks like the Mirage 2000, doesn't it? I mean, you at a distance, it looks just like this.
Yeah, beautiful airplane, it really is. And again, you know, the idea, there's a little aileron roll on the downwing there as Captain Snodgrass puts his wings forward now to get those good low-speed handling characteristics. You know, again, these airplanes, again, owing to the technology and the geometry that we have on the F-14, his landing speed is not all that different than what we have on the F7F. shows provide a great opportunity for families to get out together.
And here at Dayton, often the performers even bring their families along.
Diving down at 200 miles an hour, he pulls vertical, throws the airplane into a out of control.
That was Eric Tucker as a veteran announcer for his dad, Sean D. Tucker, at the ripe old age of 11.
So the incredible, the amazing, Mr. Sean D. Tucker.
Now, this dynamic father and son duo has developed quite a following on the airshow circuit. For the past 4 years, Eric has traveled with his father during the summer and has seen many sights along the way.
Like, I'm going home next weekend just to relax and visit everybody. I'm going to be home just long enough not to get bored.
Eric is 14 now and has accumulated lots of hours as a pilot himself.
Yeah, I like flying a lot. And about 8 months ago, on my 14th birthday, I soloed in gliders for the first time. And so that was a lot of fun.
Sean makes sure the plane is safe. He checks every aspect of the plane before it flies.
This is truly an athletic event. We have some safety equipment inside the airplane. I have my handy-dandy parachute that we don't leave the ground without.
Last time I flew with him, actually, he put together a sequence for me, and I flew my first sequence inside an aerobatic box that they have marked out there. So that was a lot of fun.
And this dance is so choreographed that I know exactly what my speeds are going to be on every entry and where I am at the top. If they're not that way, I'll stop the maneuver, come around and do it again, and the audience will never know. That's why you pay for a great announcer, because he can cover for you. And that's why my son's so expensive. He's a great announcer. He knows how to cover for me.
Right about now, you'll hear my dad yell, "Hooey!" for the Sean D. Tucker Hooey Loop. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Sean D. Tucker and the 1-800-COLLECT Challenger.
And right now, Eric, as Sean D. Tucker points the nose of the 1-800-COLLECT Challenger toward the ground and accelerates around. Watch for the 2 full rolls on the vertical upline, the layout in the inverted position, and then watch for the snap rolls as he comes down the 45-degree downline. And Eric, show off your California education.
Okay, now he'll pull the stick back just a little bit to the 45-degree downline and then start snapping. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, no 6, just 5.
5 inside snap rolls, and now Sean goes to the vertical with a maneuver taller than the world's tallest building. This is the spiraling tower, ladies and gentlemen, as he tops out at an altitude above the top of the World Trade Center in Chicago, up and over the top for the spiraling tower. But now the maneuver named after the sound that he makes at the top of the loop. Take it away, Eric.
This next maneuver is inside outside loop, which is Lamsavak on the top. And if you listen closely enough, right about now, you'll hear my dad yell, "Hooey!" for the Sean D. Tucker Hooey Loop.
Pushing around now from the upside down position. This one that makes all the blood rush to the bald spot as Sean continues on the backside for the maneuver known as the Tucker Upper. And why does he call it that, Eric?
Well, this one's dedicated and named for the whole Tucker family, the cats, the dogs, the cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters.
You forgot the goldfish again, Eric.
I forget it every time, Gordon.
The double hammerhead now as Sean D. Tucker comes to Airshow Center. He goes to the vertical, climbing to the vertical until the airplane comes to a complete stop out of the shoulder roll. Then around he goes as he turns around from the hammerhead, unbelievably, for a second hammerhead, the double hammerhead.
This next maneuver is the flip top. He'll climb this 1-800-COLLECT Challenger straight up and then pop over the top for the flip top.
If you listen carefully, you'll hear the pop from the sound on the top of the Coca-Cola can as he comes over the top. Pop! The flip-top maneuver. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, Sean has gained altitude high and to your left. The smoke trail now shows you where Sean's position is in the sky, but not for very long. The nose comes down, accelerating the aircraft at 225 miles per hour once again. You'll see the nose rise slightly as Sean sets up for the tumbling gyroscopic maneuver that rolls him tumbling backwards through the sky. The incredible rolling, tumbling centrifuge.
There's 7. There's 8.
Amazing. Look at this thing. Great to hear Eric Tucker, along with the Australian accents of Gordon Bowman Jones. Still to come, beautiful World War I flyers and the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. Stay with the U.S. Air and Trade Show from Dayton.
And welcome back to the 1996 United States Air and Trade Show in Dayton, Ohio.
And back in the early days of this century, aviators didn't talk about HUD displays and Mach 2 and G-forces. When aviation itself was just a teenager, it seemed magic just that an airplane could fly, as it still does to many of us today.
This Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, enjoy Casano's famous 13-inch deluxe pizza for only $8. Valid for dine-in, carry-out, and free delivery all day long. Casano's delicious deluxe pizza is loaded with pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms, onions, and green peppers. And through Sunday, all this goodness is yours for $8. Best of all, there's no limit and no coupon is needed for this very special offer. So call your neighborhood Casano's right now. After all, Casano's invented the deluxe pizza.
Can you beat the pro? WHIO-TV and these fine sponsors invite you to give it a try. Throughout the summer, a local pro hits a tee shot on a par 3 hole on their golf course. Golfers playing that course each Saturday can register to beat the pro. Closest to the pin wins. Weekly winners go on to play in the championship round here at Yankee Trace Golf Club in Centerville. You could win this 1996 Chevrolet Camaro or other valuable prizes. Watch News Center 7's Sunday edition of the Night Beat.
Is it Baywatch or Suicide Watch? Hard Copy tells the shocking story of how Pamela Lee may have taken over 200 painkillers while she was pregnant. What's behind Pamela's plea for help? Then, in the shadow of 800's fatal flight, our cameras captured frightening lies about our nation's beefed-up security systems. From the curb to the cargo, we reveal dangers below. Don't fly till you watch Hard Copy's expose on airport insecurity.
Hard Copy, Monday at 4, only on Channel 7.
Donnie Lee nicked his finger on a farm saw and went to the hospital to get stitches. But when Donnie was given the wrong kind of anesthesia, he never woke up.
You don't cut your finger and 9 hours later die.
What could have gone so terribly wrong? Follow a family's cry for justice to prove their son didn't have to die. Watch the next A Current Affair.
A Current Affair, Monday at 4:30, only on Channel 7.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the air from the birthplace of aviation. This is the United States Air and Trade Show in Dayton, Ohio. Ed Meckenbauer and Jim Baldridge here, and I just love to see these beautiful Hornets, even on the ground.
Jim, the FA-18 is the aircraft of choice now for the last 10 years by the Blue Angels. Built by McDonnell Douglas down in St. Louis, it's quite a good-sized machine with 56 feet from nose to tail and 40 feet from wingtip to wingtip.
Blue Angels are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. Lieutenant Commander Tom Munson, Blue Angel number 80, is joining us right now. And Tom, what's the team leader telling those jets now?
Right now he says smoke on, off brakes now, burners ready now, and the Blue Angel Diamond is rolling. And you can see that the smoke disappears when the aircraft are in afterburner, and that's just due to the superheating that takes place coming out the tailpipes.
Tom, how fast are these airplanes going to be going when they lift off the ground?
When they start their lift off the ground, they're going about 140 right when the gear starts to come up, and you'll see the gear being raised here pretty soon, the landing gear, which is the tires and the main mounts. And now you see that all the gear is up and the slot pilot is tucking it in behind the leader and in between the left and right wing.
They're actually getting in formation about 100 feet off the ground. They're on the right.
Very close.
Number 4 slides right in there.
First maneuver here is Lieutenant Mark Provar, our lead solo. He's going to do a dirty roll on takeoff. Dirty means that the landing gear is down and the flaps are still down. You can see nice, easy roll.
That's pretty.
He'll bottom out at about 60 feet above the ground right there and sets the attitude on the plane and flies away. Very nice.
He lost altitude during that roll.
Right, because it's such a slow rolling maneuver with the wings not being underneath the aircraft, you'll lose it. So now, number 6, the opposing solo, running down the runway. He's going to do a low transition. You'll see him get his gear up, stay very close to the runway, and now you'll see a little bit of the pitch authority in the airplane. He will pull the nose straight up into the vertical and climb to about 4,000 feet. He's all cleaned up, the gear's up.
There it goes.
Very heavy pull.
Look at the condensation coming off that aircraft.
Coming in next behind the crowd, and they'll be flying behind the crowd out toward crowd right is the Diamond. They're coming in for their patented Diamond 360, and it gives the crowd a good chance to look at how tight the formation is with the 4 Diamond pilots.
Now, how close together are these wingtips right now?
Right now, it's an advertised 36 inches wingtip to canopy. So you've got one man's wingtip overlapping the canopy of another aircraft only 3 feet away.
Which means the wings are actually overlapping.
That's right.
That's right.
They're tucked into each other's little cubbyhole. They're like praying hands or like an interlocking grip on a golf club.
A lot of practice and a lot of trust.
And now the solo pilot's coming in for what we call the knife edge maneuver. They're going to pass within about 60 feet of each other, and at the very last second, they're going to throw their plane into a 90-degree angle of bank, each of them, and they will pass canopy to canopy, only about 60 feet apart. They're coming at each other with about 1,000 knots of closure, each plane about 500 knots.
And the amazing part is they've gone left and right, and they come back over show center at the same time.
And the crowd goes, ooh.
Here comes another nice diamond maneuver. It's called the diamond roll. They're coming in from behind the crowd to the crowd right side of where we're sitting. The diamond roll.
Now this is one of those maneuvers where it's kind of easy on the boss there. Up front, he's just rolling over. But 2 and 3 have got to do basically a corkscrew maneuver. So they're changing position in 3 axes while maintaining the same relative position.
That's right, and they are actually both on the outside of this turn, so they are constantly making power corrections and making sure that they maintain their formation there.
Okay, upside down to upside down. 5 and 6 crosses.
Right, that was the opposing inverted to inverted roll. They approach each other upside down, roll, just missing each other, and end up inverted and fly out through the flank. And that's a neat sensation, flying upside down at 200 feet.
Okay, now we got the, we should have the 4-ship coming back in now, Tom.
That's right, and they'll be coming in from the left side of the crowd for what we call the Diamond Dirty Loop. The Diamond guys are going to have all their landing gear down, their flaps are down. They're really working hard, and I've referred to the aircraft as being in the dirty state right now, and that's because it's just not very clean.
Yeah.
The airflow over the airframe is kind of mushy because of all the landing gear and the flaps that are hanging off of it. So these guys are in full afterburner now, just to show you the power of the GE engines to get the planes around in this loop.
But once they get across the top, they want to get rid of that afterburner right now.
That's right, and they'll deselect afterburner, much like that diamond loop on takeoff. They want to control their airspeed on the way down so they're not accelerating too fast toward terra firma.
Understand that these guys are highly skilled professionals, and when called upon to do their job, they need to be able to be familiar with what they're doing.
Thanks, Ed. We appreciate that, sir.
Ed, you call it the sound of freedom, and I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Oh, from over top of the crowd. Number 5 and 6.
The opposing minimum radius turn, and they're going to look like they just miss each other on their outbound leg here, and they're going to come around and cross over center point.
Oh.
There it is.
Crowd did that too. Oh.
As we see from the left.
That was the diamond aileron roll. Each plane performing an individual 360-degree roll, and they all do it in unison, and that's a nice-looking maneuver. And now comes one of our more tricky demonstrations. Our two solo pilots are coming in from the right side of the demonstration area for a maneuver we call the Fortis. And what you're going to see is the two solo pilots creating a mirror image formation of each other. Right there you saw the solo pilot, one of the solo pilots, rolling upside down. That's Lieutenant Mark Provo. And Lieutenant Scholl is going to try to match him right at center point.
He's there. Look at this.
Us Air Force guys think that tail hook is for emergencies only.
It's common usage in the Navy.
Yeah, I know. Okay, now we got these guys stacked up again, Commander, in one of those patented close maneuvers.
We call this the echelon parade. Very tough to maintain this formation that close to each other. 4 planes stacked on each other in what we call an echelon formation on a 45-degree bearing right down the line. They'll turn out in this formation, make an easy right-hand turn, and then shift back into the Blue Angel Diamond.
Okay, now we're going to have the solos come in here and do a little bit more of their high step in time.
Right, and this is another maneuver that'll get a big ooh and ah from the crowd. They're coming from in front of the crowd at about 400 nautical miles per hour, and they're going to roll away from each other 270 degrees, so they're actually blind on each other during this roll, and then they pull their aircraft and cross with minimum separation.
Look at tuck away, and oh! I can hear the guys in the truck. They just missed!
That just shake the crowd a little bit with that fast pass, huh?
Yeah.
We see them forming up now. I count 5 there, and probably number 6 going to be heading in.
Six will go behind the crowd and loiter for a little while.
Oh.
This is a 5-plane maneuver called the line abreast loop. So you're going to see another formation change here where everybody is looking 90 degrees from their flight path toward Captain Wooldridge's aircraft, and they're going to perform a 5-plane line abreast loop.
Now imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going down Interstate 75 and you're trying to keep your car lined up with the car next to you, and you know, it's not too bad if you're back about 45 degrees, but if you're trying to keep your bumper perfectly lined up with the car beside you and then have another guy on the outside of you, it gets a little more tough.
Ah, that was exciting.
Yep.
Not bad.
Right at 500 feet over the crowd, you're right.
Now here comes the last maneuver prior to Delta, and this is our two solo pilots doing what we call the tuck over roll. And what their goal is here is to try to make themselves look like one airplane to the crowd. And they're going to roll their aircraft 270 degrees and climb out to the right. Now, those guys are going to be busy because they got to track down the diamond.
Got the 6-ship, Tom.
Right, and much like the diamond roll, now this is the Delta roll. And because you've got 2 extra guys outboard of Captain Wooldridge in the lead plane, it's a much slower roll than the diamond roll was earlier on in the program. And now those solo guys, they're learning what it takes to be a diamond pilot right now.
Okay, now we got the 6-ship and one of the more interesting formations here.
Right, this is a double V. You can see almost 2 V's formed in there. The first 3 planes and then the second 3 planes. And they're going to perform the fleur-de-lis, which is, if you follow the smoke trail and use your little bit of imagination, you'll see what the fleur-de-lis might look like.
Okay, so now we got the Blue Angels. A busy year, and the 50th year is always special. And this is not your normal way of landing, Jim. I mean, come in and we're going to cycle them up here and around to the landing pattern.
And now, Jim, what you mentioned is they're decelerating right now, and that's what that 9-degree angle of bank does, and they're pulling on the stick, and that slows them down from a speed of about 400 knots to about 180 knots by the time they're rolled out in what we call the downwind, which is what the camera's picking up on that last jump there.
And many thanks to Lieutenant Commander Tom Munson, Blue Angel number 8, for his expert commentary. Beautiful airplane, beautiful sky, and another exciting performance by the Blue Angels.
The Blue Angels are heading for a landing, but there's still more to come from the United States Air and Trade Show in Dayton, Ohio. Stay with us. It's been a fabulous day here at the United States Air and Trade Show at the birthplace of aviation, Dayton, Ohio. We've seen the history, really, of aviation, Ed, from the earliest parts of this century through the world wars up to the highest tech of today.
As we stand here in front of the F-117 Nighthawk, we invite you to join us again next year as we continue to show you the tape of things to come. I'm Ed Meckenbauer.
I'm Jim Baldridge. Thanks for being with us at the United States Air and Trade Show at Dayton, Ohio. We'll see you next year.